Good evening and welcome to the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast. Tonight we are talking about overcoming obstacles and breaking through barriers. We're talking about recovery. We're talking about recovery. Well, we're going to be talking about alcohol, but we're going to be talking about recovery from any addiction. Doesn't matter what it is. We've got some answers tonight for you, and I have assembled a couple guys here that are just right off the chart awesome. I'll start by introducing Reverend Winn Henderson. He's also a retired doctor as well. He has been on our show before. He has co-authored or written 44 books. He's been doing a podcast now for 20 years or better by himself. And he is totally awesome. He's been counseling both in person as well as telephone clients all over the world with issues of addiction and helping them to find their purpose in life. And, that theme is going to run through the entire broadcast this evening, because that's what this is all about, helping people be able to achieve a quality of lifestyle that they can be proud of and that they can enjoy, and to help them find their purpose in life and then go about doing that purpose. I also have Evan Tintsman, I think I pronounced that correctly, with us tonight as well. Now, he's been on my show too, and he is great guy as well. He, I know from a group that I belong to with Evan Carmichael. It seems like this is like Evan Carmichael members group lately this week. But I'll tell you what, I've met some super dynamic people in there as well. And Evan is one of them. And I had him on our show previously, and he is an entrepreneur in the insurance and real estate industry, whose mission is now to be a purveyor of hope and optimism. Yeah, it's all about hope. There is, hope no matter how dark things seem to get. There is hope, but we have to actually do something about that. Now, he built a successful business from the ground up and then completely destroyed it, though, and as well his personal life after a 5-year drinking stint and self-destructive behaviors. Today, he's not. He's working again in his successful business. He's rebuilt it, and he spends much of his free time helping others rebuild their life, their health, and their business. He leads with the belief that you are never too old and it's never too late to start over and live the life that you want. If you happen to be watching on Facebook or YouTube, we certainly welcome your comments. Feel free to put comments in as well. Share this video out if you know someone that might be able to benefit from this. We're going to be going over a lot of information tonight, and we'll certainly try and address your comments as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our host. Let's bring in Reverend Wynn as well as Evan. Good evening.
Good evening, Stephen. How are you?
Yeah, Steve.
Yes, I'm doing well. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be able to talk this evening. Why don't we start with Reverend Wynn? You're also a retired doctor. Tell us a little bit about yourself so that the viewers can get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I know I don't look it, but actually I'm 72 years old, and I graduated from medical school in 72. And it's been a long time developing the things that I have been able to work with. But the thing that I'm most passionate about is helping people get rid of their addictive behaviors. And I'm not just an alcohol, drugs, and tobacco guy, because there are a lot more common addictions than that. In fact, the internet and the cell phones and all that is probably the most common addiction in the country. And yet nobody really talks about that. But there's about 30 different addictive behaviors that mess people up. And that's what I'm interested in doing, giving them a plan that they can count on that will get them free from their addictive behavior. I also do investigative journalism, and I got a lot of stuff that's current as far as the COVID problem. And also, I did some research and wrote a book to tell people how not to get scammed and catfished on relationship sites. So I've got a lot of interesting things that we can talk about.
That sounds awesome. We're certainly looking forward to that. Now, Evan, introduce yourself to the viewers.
Well, my name is Evan Tintsman. I'm just north of Pittsburgh, PA. I do not have the background that he does, but I don't know your background at this point, but I have the destruction part down pretty well. So that one day might be a book in itself. So I think I share a lot of the same things. It's what I used to focus on, the accomplishments, the goals, I say in my opinion, the biggest problem, not the biggest problem, but as an addict, always chasing the external things to fill the internal voids. And doesn't matter how old you are. So I hit that point where you have to give in and you have to accept the fact that you are where you are because it's your own fault, despite any background or issues or things like that. But it's like a dichotomy, because I'm in a very type A, outgoing, superficial kind of world with what I do. But then but you can't handle your inside from that standpoint, so it's kind of like you look successful on the outside, but you want to die on the inside. So you look for the ways to numb yourself. And it's really taken on a life of its own for me, especially interacting with people like yourself. And every day you learn more stuff, you gain more knowledge, you hear other people's stories, and then you just start to kind of work with them, and working with other people kind of helps me, stay straight. So I get caught in this point of like, I'm trying to do everything I can to pay it forward to try to help other people, but at the same time, I'm still dealing with my own recovery as well. So it's about finding that balance as well. So that has really given me that balance as far as dealing with my business, because that grounds me, that kind of keeps me humble, the family standpoint. And when I feel I'm going a little too hard from the worldly standpoint, this kind of grounds me. So still trying to put it together.
Well, I know that you maybe were sparked to start helping people somewhat when I invited you onto the show, and that kind of made you realize, maybe I would have something here. And and that's really awesome. I'm really proud of you for what you are doing. And it's an amazing thing that when you buckle down, you make some good choices, you stop the drinking, you stop doing the harmful things to yourself, and the next thing you know, over time, your life gets better.
Exactly.
And you were able to rebuild your business, and so things are just cranking along. I'm so proud of you there, Evan.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I wanted to state a couple facts here. Okay. I want to talk, I'm going to be talking about alcohol now, because alcohol, well, that was my story. I drank myself to homelessness back in 2010, something I never even figured that I would ever do, but yet it happened. And I ended up going to jail, coming out, being homeless, working my way back to the life that I have now, to be able to be on TV and have phenomenal guests like Reverend Winn Henderson, as well as Evan Tintsman, and so many other great friends that I have met, I've learned and grown. I have this nonprofit foundation. But the point is that, well, I want everybody to know, if you're watching this show, we've got a special for you too. Thank you, Reverend Wynn, for offering a book and we'll get into that book in just a minute, but I'm going to cite some of the statistics that he had mentioned in this book, that when you read this stuff, you'd have to want, I know I had to say, why was I drinking? It's like, oh my goodness. So here's the fact. It costs over $250 billion annually to deal with the costs associated to the consumption of alcohol. Just alcohol alone, $250 billion. Now we're talking about the criminal justice system, property damage, loss of productivity and work, and that's huge, because I knew that I couldn't personally work very well when I was under the influence the next morning, because I've been up drinking all night. I was not on my game at all, even though I thought that I was on my game. Well, until I got shown, well, you're not, Stephen. Guess what? You're homeless now. You got nothing left. We'll show you how that works. Another fact, average age of a person's first use of alcohol is 12 years old. I know I was about 14.
All right.
7 times more likely to become addicted if you drink before you're 15 years old versus people that start at 21 years old. So the younger you start, the more your chances are of becoming an alcoholic and having it become a problem for your life. Alcohol is known as the gateway drug. You know, everybody thought that it was marijuana, but it is actually really alcohol. That's the gateway. That opens the door for others. In 2018 study by the American Addiction Centers, they found that 2/3 of illicit drug users indicated that alcohol was the first drug that they ever used. So there you go. 86% of all homicides are committed under the influence of alcohol. Violence is increased. Becoming a victim can be certainly one of the repercussions and the circumstances of drinking. It increases sexual assault, suicide, and of course DUI deaths. Alcohol is a carcinogen. It's a toxin. And, you know, I said to myself, why would I want to drink poison, right? But boy, I thought I was having fun. So I'd like for you to start, Reverend Wynn. Okay. Why are people doing this? Why are they drinking and finding themselves in a bad situation? Maybe you can explain addiction and start with that.
Well, it's a big subject, but I'll try to boil it down for you.
Okay.
All addictions, all addictive behaviors are caused by low self-esteem. You don't appreciate your value. You don't value yourself enough. And so therefore, you're willing to do things that hurt you and hurt people around you. And nobody is going to get cured of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, sex, gambling, whatever it might be, until they have some kind of plan in place to increase their self-esteem. And that, of course, is part of the basis of my program. And as a minister, I see the spiritual connection there, that you have to know 4 important questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? And where am I going when I'm done? And if you know the answers to those questions and can live them, your self-esteem will be great enough that you won't need alcohol or any other behavior in your life, and you can have a richer and fuller life.
Evan, maybe you can talk about, you know, you started drinking later in your life. You didn't start when you were young necessarily, and you found yourself drinking later in life. And tell us about that.
I could not agree with the Reverend more. As I look back over my life, I've always had addictive patterns and behaviors. It's just the what was different. As he said, I did not. I don't go too much into it, but I did have a lot of issues as a child. My childhood, divorce, and there was just stuff. So I was always obsessed on something, you know, whether it would be sports or this, or, you know, and even corporate America, it had to be, I was always chasing that carrot. If I had the goal, I had to get it. That was my dopamine, because I could track it, I could quantify it, and therefore look at me, I'm successful. Okay. And no matter what but a lot of it was constructive obsessions. You know, I'm working corporate America, decide I want to flip houses. When I flipped 17 houses in 2 years, great. You make money, you buy cars, all superficial, giving me that temporary, maybe dopamine or whatever, but immediately you crash and you want more and more and more. So it's like he said with, you know, the cell phones or any other vice. When my life changed is when I stepped out of corporate America and I decided to become self-employed. I didn't have that structure or accountability in place by having to report to anybody. So I tell people the greatest thing about being self-employed is the freedom and flexibility. But the most dangerous thing about being self-employed is the freedom and flexibility. Because if you don't want to get up, you don't have to. You want to go to take a long lunch, take a long lunch. So being in insurance, financial services, real estate, mine started take a client to lunch, have 2 drinks, go back to work, then go meet another one for a happy hour, 2 drinks, and then go meet someone for dinner. I was never a partier, didn't drink at home, nothing like that. But 2, 4, 6, 8 a day, and then you throw in some bad business deals, and then the stress kicks in, and then I start keeping it in my office, and before you know it, it became fifth and a half a day just to function, and then it just goes down that path of ultimate destruction. So I didn't see it happening to me until it was too late. And I tell people there's that line that you cross, but you don't know where that line is until you crossed it. And once you can actually admit and accept, like, yeah, I just crossed it, it's very difficult to go back on your own. So like so many, I tried to do things myself. You try to quit, you try to get hypnotized, I was so far gone. And then when I hit my rock bottom, like I destroyed my relationships, destroyed my business, lost friends, lost clients. Just people didn't even want to be around me. And from the outside, I was one of those people that I was like the last person that you would, from the outside, small town, popular, people knew both my families, just the way I grew up, the image I put out there was the image I wanted people to see me on the outside, but I never really let anybody in on the inside. So I was like that guy, like I would be the last person that people would have thought in this small town. And then it just exploded. And I got to the point I couldn't rob Peter to pay Paul anymore. And just my family was disgusted. And I got to that point that I was contemplating the unthinkable. So it crept up on me at 42 years old. So now at 45, the hard part is, and I see my weekly therapist and doctor. I did 21 months of a Vivitrol shot, and I've been off it for a year this past June. But the hardest thing for me now in the rebuilding phase is when I look around at my peers and friends and whatever, I know where I was before I started, and I know where I would have been today had I not. So when I look around and I see other people having, doing, getting where I should, would, or want to be, that is so hard. Like to still stay focused, like, okay, well, you're not too old, it's not too late. So that's my struggle at this point. So that's kind of my story. That's how it happened. And that's where I'm at. So now I try to pay it forward.
Yeah. I really appreciate the fact that you're sharing that transparency, Evan, because it takes a lot of courage to share a story like that. I know that for myself, I could had been drinking, but I would tell you I hadn't been drinking. I wasn't willing to admit it to anybody. I was afraid of the repercussions and their judgment and what they might say. Thankfully, I don't have to concern myself with whether people have judgment on me anymore. That doesn't affect me like it used to, which creates a lot of peace and serenity, right? But the ability to be able to step into that fear. There's been a lot of studies about alcohol and about drinking where it could be good for your health. Reverend and Dr. Winn Henderson. Is that true? Is drinking
That is good for your health?
Good for you at all?
No, there's not much good that you can put on that. They say that red wine is healthy because it's got a chemical in there, resveratrol, but you can get that in a pill if you want that. It was just a ploy from the industry to try to get up their wine sales. It's a toxin. It causes, I think it's around 7 different kinds of cancer. It can cause you to have a stroke. I co-authored a book with a specialist in researching alcohol, and we came up with 25 good reasons why you might not want to drink alcohol. And we used the Ben Franklin model of putting all the pros on one side and all the cons on the other side. And when we were done, we had 21 cons and 2 or 3 pros. And the pros were things like a social lubricant might make you sleep better, at least initially. It might kill some pain. But these were minor and they could be taken care of with other ways. But the vast majority of everything, and it was scientifically based, came down to this is bad. You don't want to be putting this into your body. And I call the book Guess What Drug Drugged the Cat In? And I've got
Yeah, I've got that right here. Let's pop,
later on to
let's
give
pop
that
a
book
picture of
away.
that up right here. And as a matter of fact, sorry about that, Evan. Got you covered up there with that book. Look what drugged the cat in. Now you're giving that book away, the digital copy of that, isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's right. If someone wants to find out the 25 reasons and wants to find out the scientific basis for making a decision not to drink, then this is the book to get. And I will, as long as I can, give that book away free as a digital download. And all you have to do is email me at wynn@winnhenderson.com. And that's WINNHENDERSON. And request the free book. And I will add you to my mailing list so that you can get all the new stuff that's coming down the pike every week. And then you'll find out the facts that you need to know to make a decision.
And you've written many books, and that's a good one to start with, though. And so certainly feel free to, and I'll get the address in here in just 1 minute for the viewers, where they can email Reverend Wynn to get that book. I wanted you to maybe start too as well. What are some of the signs that someone would look for, either in themselves or someone that they love, that might be saying, hey, there's the problem here with alcohol?
Was that for me or for Evan?
That's for, well, let's go with both of you. Let's start with Evan. What do you think some of the signs are, Evan?
I think you're probably going to see some of the behavioral initially before you're going to see the physical. Because I ended up gaining a lot of weight, and then it's slowly the lethargy and stuff starts to set in. But, it's hard for me to answer that because like I did it and assumed that nobody knew that I was doing it, but only after the fact, everybody says, yeah, you thought you were better than you were. I would say if I were observing me, I probably got lackadaisical in my work. I probably wasn't very responsive. I wasn't communicating well. I wasn't hitting my priorities, making a lot of excuses on, got to take, I got to run to the store. I got to run to the post office. I was always running out of my office, and same thing, even at home, like just finding reasons to get out, not paying attention in conversations, getting very distracted, preoccupied by it. I'll stop here so doctor can talk, but this is when I knew I had a really significant problem. It was a Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, and I realized that what I had, my bottle was almost empty. And then I realized the following day was Martin Luther King Day. And here in Pennsylvania, we have our state-run stores. They're closed on holidays. I hit a panic because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't get through tomorrow. And that's all I could think about. And the only way I was able to calm myself down was like, well, that's okay. You can go to a restaurant, you can get it at a bar. But like when I hit that panic, like my world was ending, that's behaviorally that's kind of when I knew.
Reverend Wynn.
Well, you wanted to know what.
Okay, what are some of the signs that would maybe make a person think hey, maybe I have a problem here with alcohol, or maybe something that would we so that if you know somebody that might have a problem, what are some of these signs that it really something should be done, or that we should bring
Well,
it
of course,
to their
that can vary
awareness? Because
person to person.
go
Um,
ahead.
but some of the obvious signs, if you see somebody that's drunk more than once, you might question how many times does a person get intoxicated, and they might slur their words. You got two kinds of drunks. You got a happy drunk, and you got a mean drunk. See somebody's try to start a fight, that might be somebody that you would suspect. Like Evan said, um, they they hide their illness. They don't stay focused on what their business is because they're running to get a drink, or doing something that has to do with drinking. And then you have the people that nobody knows because they do such a good job of hiding it. So one of the things I think that would be helpful is if you had a personal relationship with the person,
Yes.
is to take the role of a friend and just ask a bunch of questions in a non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
See if you
Using
can get
what,
them to
not
open up
why.
about how they're feeling.
Yes. Yes. The T chart with Ben Franklin. That's maybe a good way for someone to just kind of run down the pros and cons, right? To determine whether they think that this is beneficial for them, right?
All right. So if you're not already fixed into a behavior and you're still rational enough that you can think about it and weigh the good and the bad and everything like that, this is an excellent book because um, I was a social drinker, didn't consider myself an alcoholic for 55 years, and there's lots of things to do. Go to people's homes and drink, go out to eat and drink, go to wine tasting. Um, but I, being in the addiction field, and I have my own definition of addiction, which is if you have a behavior, any behavior that you discover is hurting you or someone you love, and you can't stop it for whatever reason you want to give, you're addicted to that behavior. So as we started going through these 25 reasons, and he was on my show 6 times and put the book together, when we got to the end of that discussion, I said, you know what? I'm going to do a test because I now know that this drug is hurting me and it's probably hurting some of my close associates. So I'm going to stop drinking right now, and I'm never going to drink for the rest of my life. And if I can do that, then I don't meet the qualification of being addicted to the drug. And I
Well,
did
I
it.
know. I don't mean to interrupt, but I know I told myself probably a 1,000 or 3 times that I'll never drink again. I'll never do that. That day took a long time to come.
Well, some people can go from addicted to non-addicted in just a couple seconds. And some people take years and going in and out of recovery. And so my advice to you is once you've made a decision,
Me?
Mm.
Recovery 3 times? Before it finally sunk in? Oops. No, I don't take any of it back. I don't.
well, they say that any behavior that you've had in the past, and it is in the past, not too much you can do about that. If you learn from it and you change that bad behavior, it wasn't all that bad. Some people take a lot to get them to see the light.
Well, that's a perspective thing because yes, that's the way I look at it now is that even, I don't feel good about the people that I hurt, my friends and my family and my kids and all of that. Maybe even people I didn't know. But I wouldn't take it back because I had to do that to learn, to be able to be where I am today and to be able to share and let people know. Because my big thing is I'm trying to help people not have to necessarily make some of the same mistakes and that like learn from others' mistakes, right?
Well, the AA program, 12 step, has to do with giving back as a
Yes.
result of what you've learned. And that's a highly important thing to learn, is that you want to help the people who were just like you before you got to that stage of recovery.
Yes. And it is very rewarding. Absolutely 100%. And I know that Evan feels that too. I know that he's seeing how that's making and feels good to help people and to hear that they're doing better. I'm curious to know what you think, Reverend Wynn, though, about the pandemic and the effect that that's had on some people to start drinking, maybe that weren't even drinking before, but as a coping mechanism, because like you said, that's what it is. It's a coping mechanism because we don't feel good about ourselves.
Well, the rate of increasing your alcoholism or your chance of suicide or other mental health problems goes up significantly when you take yourself out of society and lock yourself in your home. People were not designed to be social avoiders. They need to be with other people, to touch other people, to laugh with other people and everything. And the pandemic has caused, as a result of what you're hearing on the television, people to pull back. And as they pull back, their mental health gets worse. And of course, their drinking gets worse.
It's gone up a lot, and so has mental health people, mental health cases where people are checking in. Absolutely, because this is a difficult time. It's a major adjustment that people are having to make. Some lost their jobs. They're not maybe in the position like Evan. Evan, what kind of effect have you seen as a result of the pandemic with respect to your business? And I mean, you're in the business of helping people and looking out for their future.
So two things real quick. You mentioned, doctor mentioned AA 12 step. I did not do that, but I 100% agree. I come from the place of gratitude because I feel like I probably drove intoxicated 7 days a week for 5 to 6 years. I never got a DUI. I never got arrested. I never got hurt. I never hurt anybody else. How? I have no idea, other than somebody, I was being protected. I did wreck my car twice. So I kind of feel like I was spared. I have a big mouth and thick skin, so I don't care if you're going to judge me. So I kind of feel like I was spared. So now I feel obligated to pay it forward. So I've actually talked with I still go to my therapist weekly. Now it's not even about addiction. Now it's just about mental health, brain dump, just someone to go to. But it's funny because, and I'm sure you've seen this, that once you get sober, it is so easy for one addict to spot another from a mile away, even though that other person may not realize they are yet, but you can just see it. And I'm watching it, particularly not so much now, but in the beginning with the shutdown, I was watching everybody on social media start, who's got the bar, who's got the bottles. In Pennsylvania, they shut down our state stores. People were running over to Ohio and stocking up. And I remember thinking, there are people out there today that are taking that one drink that's chemically putting them over that hump, that's making them dependent, and they don't even know that they're taking that drink. It might be 8 months, 2 years before they realize, oh man. But even my therapist was saying that when they had to shut down their daily groups and stuff like that, a lot of you have to you have to originate with addiction to go there. You can't, you know. So when they shut it down, she said they've had an overwhelming number of relapses, not just
Mhm.
alcohol, heroin, things like that. Actually, a few people have overdosed and died. And so, yeah, I agree. Like even me sitting here, I got a big window right here, and I'm looking at a five-way intersection, but it drives me crazy being in here. I'm a people person. I need to be in front of people. I'm a sales guy. And so, yeah, if I were not sober, I don't know how I'd be handling this right now, because the anxiety that I feel healthy, I couldn't imagine where I'd be. So my heart aches for it, because that's the one aspect that I don't feel is getting not even enough, but any attention whatsoever, with the ripple effects of everything going on with the pandemic. You know, like,
Mhm.
you don't hear about it, and that's where the tragedy is. I think it's the addiction, and then I think having two young teenage daughters, the psychological effects it's going to have on children moving forward. Those are the two things that people aren't addressing, and that depression in kids could also lead into addiction at some point. You know, so it's a slippery slope, and I wish they would address it more.
Um, Reverend Wynn, um, how does medication play a role in recovering from, alcohol addiction? I know that Evan spoke to, what was the name of that again, Evan?
I did 21 monthly shots of Vivitrol. It's a neuroblocker, kind of kills the
Vivitrol.
craving. And then I mean, I'm an open book, and I take a 200 milligrams of lamotrigine, like an antidepressant. Actually, no, 300 twice a day.
Mhm.
Well, 100 in the morning, 200 at night. So that was kind of like the little bit of stabilization I needed after I did everything else, and seems to be doing well. But
If it's helping, then obviously it's good. Reverend Wynn, can you speak to the medication aspect?
Well, there's a profit motivation in giving people drugs, and they make up all kinds of reasons why you should take this drug or that drug. But in my program, drugs aren't necessary. And because you're not an alcoholic because you're low on an antidepressant, you're not an alcoholic because you need an outside drug to help your brain. It's a spiritual disease. And my book, which is called Freedom from Addiction 3, and it's available on Amazon, talks to that, of course. And when I was in family practice, I had lots of people coming in wanting Prozac because they were depressed. And I said to them, you're not depressed because you're low on Prozac.
Right.
Do this. Go out for the next month every day. Find somebody that you can help in some way, either small or large. Don't want to get anything back in return, and come back and we'll discuss it again. And the vast majority of those people, after having tried to benefit another human being every day, they were no longer depressed and they didn't want a drug. So, you know, I understand that drugs are used by a lot of people, and they'll give you a substitute drug, but I don't believe in that, and you don't need it, in my opinion.
Well, that's not the first time that I've heard that, for certain. Uh, like you said, you're not deficient in Prozac or Wellbutrin or something like this. It's not like you need to have some so that you can be better. Um, I know for myself, I don't have a problem saying that I have a higher power. I know that in AA, that's what you need to do, is to find that higher power, whatever it might be. I call it God, but that was my difference. That's what took the obsession away from me, because I was certainly diagnosed with depression and with bipolar and take this medication. And I think what happens a lot of time, although it sounds like Evan's doing good, taking his medication, but I would take it for a little bit. And this is an amazing thing. I didn't like the way it made me feel. Like, I guess I liked the way it made me feel when I did drugs and alcohol, but I didn't like the way these other ones made me feel. So I'd stop taking them. Not even follow through. So what you're saying, Reverend Wynn, is that having medications, although I think some people might need them, do you not think that there's maybe a deficiency in some people that they would need to have that to be able to build it back? I mean, it's kind of like, I think of the heroin addiction and methadone. And the methadone was introduced, and yet it was introduced to be there for, use for 3 months, but people end up on that stuff for a lifetime.
Right.
And it's not a whole lot different. It's like, well, what the heck happened with that? Isn't it just supposed to be a temporary thing?
Yeah, it was, but with so much profit motivation in the system, the people that supply the methadone, they don't necessarily want to get you off of it. They'd like to keep you on the roll, like the liquor store owners would like to keep you on their roll, coming back
Sure.
and coming back. So if you want to find the truth of anything, look for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now, Evan, how do you feel that the counseling has been helping you?
It's the best thing that I did, but I went to 3 prior, and I was not quick to jump on a medication. The Vivitrol I did, because I did my research with it. I wasn't going inpatient. I wasn't a big fan of 12-step because for my own reasons, it just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the day I started was the day I stopped. Like, I never touched it again. But part of the insurance requirements, if you're getting that shot, you have to be in counseling. So I've gone weekly for 3.5 years. The first year was just on the destructive, the addiction, all that. And then it slowly just gets I know what I was doing. The concept behind the plan that I did with that particular shot, the shot keeps you from craving the drinking, but your therapy is supposed to help you deal with why you were doing it. So everybody knows what they were doing. They just don't know why they were doing it. So it's to address those deeper issues. And I was a big believer that, like, well, time heals all things. And, well, that was when I was a kid and that was then. And then I've come to realize time doesn't heal it. Time makes it worse because it just builds and builds and builds. And then, it's just inside of you. So what I did, and I agree with the doctor as far as like the gratitude and the helping others. And so I got obsessive when I decided, like, I'm done. I'm getting this monkey off my back. I committed to doing that. The therapy, it took me, she was my 4th that I went to, but the 3 I went to prior was before I got on the medication. I tried to get hypnotized. I did all kinds of stuff, but I kind of think I was just too far gone for it. But doctor, I started this like crazy routine because, like, you give something up, you got to replace it. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to replace it with something healthy to work on my mind, my body, my spirit. I started getting up at 3:30 in the morning, and I would meditate, I would journal, I would read, then I would go run, and I would get all of this kind of get my mind, because I became a stress drinker. Like, I was stress induced, and that was it. So I'm like, well, let me work on the things that have better coping mechanisms, develop some tools to keep in my toolbox, during the day. So then when the stress comes, I'm better suited to handle it. So, I was doing that. Then I go to work, have my counseling once a week, which I still go tomorrow, every Tuesday. And now it's just like a brain dump. Now it's like, a little bit with the COVID, but, and it's usually the days that I don't really think I need to go, are the days that end up being really good for me. Like, I have a great relationship. I encourage it. But with the medication, that's where I was going with it. Doctor, that's one of the things, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard too much alcohol can actually have an effect on your short-term memory, because mine's horrible now. And I don't know if that's true or not. But so I wanted to take myself as far as I possibly could naturally after I got off that drug, and then fill in the gap. Because you're right. Some people will lead with the drugs and they overprescribe. And I really did not want to go that route. Now, I do have some family history, and there's some problems, family history with some psychological stuff. So I wanted to get myself as good as I possibly could and then find the lowest possible thing to kind of fill in the gap. And that's kind of where I feel I have a balance. And I'm of the belief that in time I'll come off of it. You know, it's working
Mhm.
out, but I'm not committed to a life sentence to it. I don't believe that's necessary.
Reverend Wynn, I'd like you to speak to some of the things that you would recommend for somebody that's trying to either stay sober or get off of alcohol. What are some of the things that you suggest that they do to be able to get themselves healthy again?
Well, of course, I've put 30 to 40 years into this problem, and the result is my most recent book on drug and alcohol and all the other kinds of addictions. And so I would recommend that you read that book. I used to sell my books for $20, and because I didn't want price to be a problem. Last time I put one on Amazon, I think I sell it for $12 now. You know, it's hard to go out to a good restaurant and not spend $12 on a drink some places. So
These days, right?
if you got $12, I would suggest that you buy, study, and try to live this book. It's got everything in there that you need to know about what causes addiction, what you can do to get over it. There's a treatment program in the book that you can follow and do at home. You don't have to take any time off from work. And if you do three things, I've never seen a failure. And the three things are, first, you have to really want to get well. Now, I could go into the spiritual aspect of wanting to get well, but it's in the book. And just take it from me, until such time as you really want to stop doing whatever you're doing, you're not going to. Secondly, you have to believe that you can. And I've got stuff in my book, not only my backstory, but other things that give you the certainty that if you do this, you will get well. So belief is the highest spiritual concept necessary in order to get to your goal. Then as a result of really wanting to get well, wanting to do whatever it takes to get well, and believing you can in your heart, not just in your brain, you will do the program. Like I said, the program's in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to do it. And
Right.
you do that, and after a while, the addiction goes away. And I haven't seen anybody that actually did all those three things and didn't get the cure.
And yet I can remember sitting in recovery, 28 days and them telling us, look to the left and look to the right. Only one of y'all are going to be ending up sober. The rest of you are going to relapse. It's like, and 33% actually might be high in some cases. That's not a very good success rate.
And one thing you have to also understand about the disease of addiction is it's pretty sneaky a disease. And if you're able to let go of one behavior, quite often you fall into another one. So, like, let's say that you smoked and somehow or the other you were able to stop smoking. Maybe now you might be an overeater and get unhealthy from that. If it doesn't get you one way, it'll get you another way unless you attack the root cause of all addictions and take care of that problem.
Makes sense to me. Now, I know that you're trying to help people, Evan, maybe you can talk about that. We've got about 7 minutes left here. I'd like to have you start and share how you're making this positive impact in community and trying to help other people and empower them.
The first thing I did was having to accept the fact that some people are going to judge me and accept the fact that some people may walk away from me. I was hesitant for a while before I just put it all out there. I kind of dance around it, tiptoe around it, like, "Oh, I didn't want to hurt my business," and still trying to keep up some of that image. Um, I got to the point that it's like, I'm comfortable in my own skin, and if you really have a problem with me, then I probably don't need you in my life. So I try to take it from that standpoint, and I am vocal about it, and I am public about it, and I don't exploit it, but I probably go a little bit heavier on it, even with my social media and stuff, because I've had several people reach out to me. So it's kind of like, that's a positive. So I guess my message, what I'm trying to get people to understand is addiction does not discriminate. Addiction does not just happen in alleys with needles and what people would think about it. Addiction is all around us. The worst thing anybody can say to somebody, in my opinion, is don't tell an addict you need to, you should do it for, other things like you need to stop, you should stop. Well, no kidding. We know that. So I try to take it more of the approach of like, look, you have a problem. It's okay. You can address it. There's ways to do it. I talk to people in that non-judgmental way. Like, yeah, I've been there. Like, you're not going to tell me anything that I don't know. You're not going to tell me anything I didn't do. And you're not going to be able to lie to me because I mastered it, So it's really what I'm trying to just do is I keep it simple. Like, it's okay if something happened to you, as long as, like doctor said, you accept it, you admit it, you want to change, you believe you can change, and you're willing to commit to not stopping and understanding that, hey, you might not succeed the first time, or you might have a trip up, and I mean, I'm fortunate when this time, once I tried cold turkey, it was 90 days, I relapsed, and that was once, but to just keep going with it. It doesn't, it might have made you who you are today, but it doesn't have to define who you're going to be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hope, it's optimism. As long as you have breath in your lungs and your eyes open, like you have an opportunity. Every day is a new opportunity. And, I think we can all do something for somebody on some level, even if it's just an ear to listen to, or a word of encouragement, a pat on the back, or even just sit next to somebody quietly and say, you know what, you'll be okay if you want to be okay.
Active listening is a good thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Reverend Wynn?
Yeah. Well, what do you want me to speak to now?
I'd like you to just wrap up here. We've just got a couple minutes left here, and just your closing thoughts here for the viewers.
Okay. So how to get the most out of what, your program and what we've talked about today with respect to what I do, you would start listening to my podcast. It's the longest running spiritual podcast in the country. And the address is www.freedomfromaddiction.libsyn.com, spelling Libsyn, Libsyn, no caps, no spaces. It'll take you directly to the most recent podcast. And I talk about addiction, and I talk about purpose in life. And more recently, as an investigative podcaster, I tell you about truth just below the surface. Now you can get a lot of stuff on television, but it's not always true. And I try to bring you the facts so that you can have a better perspective. And so start listening to the podcast and subscribe to it. And then you can go to the website, which is www.revwynnhendersonmd.com. And you can email me if you didn't get that, and I'll give you the links. But those two things, if you will apply them, you can turn your whole life around. And better sooner than later, because uh, if you're drinking alcohol, it's going to kill you. And of course, you got that free book, which I will be happy to send you a downloadable copy of. And I would highly recommend that you look at that if alcohol is something that's giving you a problem.
And or if you know somebody that it might be bothering, certainly reach out to either myself and or Evan Tintsman, as well as Reverend Winn Henderson. Just let us know. Send a message if you want to the LWN Foundation. I also had put the referral center phone number up there earlier. It's an 800 number. I'll do that right now. Feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help you. That's the bottom line. There is light in the darkness. It might not seem like it, but know this. We all care about you. We care about the people that you love. We care about the fact that we want you to have a great life. We appreciate the fact that you have taken time to come and join us this evening. We want to thank our sponsors quickly here. We thank Cool Today. Get the best from today for your plumbing, electrical, and heating and air conditioning needs, all the way from Tampa down to Naples, Florida on the West Coast here. We appreciate Total Coatings as well. You can have your bathtub refinished and made like brand new at a fraction of the cost of a replacement. So I want to thank my guests. Know that we are going to be having more shows. We're going to focus in here on doing our best to try and help people that might be suffering from addiction, no matter what it might be. We want you to have a great week. We'll be back on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Certainly join us for that. Thank you very much, Evan Tintsman, as well as Reverend Winn Henderson, for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. And we appreciate you. Yeah, all take care. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to do a commercial here for our sponsors. We appreciate them very much. And if you happen to be in the Sarasota area, please feel free to give them a call. Thank you. And we'll see you all soon.
See ya.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it. It had deep pitting in it. There were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.